So what that led me to was the SIG. So there's all sorts of different variations of them. The one in particular we're getting is a law enforcement only model, or it's a law enforcement model. It's not, this is kind of what it looks like. It's black, is the one we're getting. It's not tan, because it's in the desert out here, as you saw on your way down, right? It looks a lot like an AR-15. This is one right here. So this is an example of one. This is my rifle, not my department rifle. This is my rifle. So this is a Sig MCX. It looks, I mean, to the uninitiated, right? They look at this. They look at one and say these are the same type of rifle, right? And they are externally, visually, basically identical, right? The difference is all internal on these things. So with the MCX, so with the MCX, all the operating components are housed in the upper receiver here, versus in a normal AR you have what's called the receiver extension, or commonly called the buffer tube, right? And that's part of how the gun functions. So with that internal, with everything being housed in this piece right here, it allows the gun to actually function with the stock folded. It allows you to fold the stock one, and allows it to function with it folded, which is for a deputy who spends 70, 80, 90% of their shift in their patrol car, having a firearm that you can store, store and deploy folded is a huge benefit. I mean, can you guys imagine trying to bust this guy out of the back of a Ford Explorer and get this thing into operation in the driver's seat? It's not going to happen, right? So the ability for this thing to function with the stock folded is huge. But probably even bigger than that is the way that the gun actually works. So it's like I said, visually very similar to an AR-15. It's actually based off an AR-18, which is 3 ARs better than an AR-15. So what it means is that instead of, by the way, what it means is that instead of typically the rapidly expanding gas is propelling the bullet down the end of the barrel. A portion of it works this way. A portion of it, as the bullet's exiting, that gas is propelling it, exits through the gas tube, through the gas block, and then travels down the gas tube, hits what's called the gas key, which pushes the bolt carrier group rearward, which then compresses this spring, the buffer spring, and it sends the bolt carrier group forward, stripping a round off the magazine and reinserting it, getting the gun back into battery. So what that means is all that rapidly expanding, hot, carbon-filled, toxic gas is traveling down this gas tube and pushing the bolt carrier group rearward and exiting out the ejection port here into the shooter's face. So that's bad for 2 reasons. One, there's a lot of studies. They're still out. I can't tell you what the findings of them are, but the indications were such that the U.S. Army, when they were looking for a new rifle, they said, hey, we need the system to be focused around reducing the amount of toxic gas in the shooter's face, because the Army read the tea leaves and they figured they're going to be paying for a lot of cancer, a lot of cancer in our veterans coming up because of how toxic this gas is. The other part for the budget-minded is that it means the inside of this gun runs a lot cleaner and a lot cooler, so longevity of parts is a lot greater. Right, the parts last a lot longer because they're not constantly going through these heating and cooling cycles, right, which is bad for the metal. And then it makes maintenance less frequent, right, for guys who already are strapped for time trying to do an insane amount of follow-up and also respond to calls and everything else that they're trying to do and train and stay proficient with their tools. So it cuts some of the time required for maintenance down quite a bit. So maintenance schedules are reduced and longevity of parts increase. And then it future-proofs us, right? Like I was talking about. So SIG won the Army, I can't remember what it's called, the NG, Next Generation Squad Weapon or something.
Oh yeah, the 249.
Yeah. So they won that, and then they won with M5 rifle, right, which is replacing the AR-15 with the MCX, which is what we're getting. So they're going to be around for a long, long time. They just won. I don't even know how much that contract was worth, but they're making all the rifles for all the rifles going forward for the military. And the pistols, right? They won the M17 and 18 contract for the Sig 2-20. So what that means is that they're not going anywhere. They're going to be around a really long time. These platforms are going to be around a really long time, and they'll be able to take care of us with aftermarket support for the foreseeable future. I honestly, this isn't just me trying to be like a salesman, like tell you guys I'm doing the best thing ever. But I really think that these rifles, when we get them, will outlast my career here. And that's not because I'm planning on leaving next year or anything. They're going to be around for quite a while. The quality is top notch. Like I said, I own one personally, that one right there. So this thing ain't loading. Have you guys seen John Wick? You know the scene in the subway where they're walking around? Oh, you got it? All right. So a lot of people get. You can go ahead and play. A lot of people get their knowledge of suppressors from Hollywood, and I love these movies, and this is just so outrageous. But a lot of people think this is what suppressors sound like, and this is what suppressors do. That's all right. Anyway, they're walking through. Good.
What was the model of Sig rifle again?
What's that?
What was the model of the Sig rifle again?
So it'd be the Spear, SPEAR-LT. Well, so LE. So Sig has terrible naming conventions. Okay. I have some paperwork in my box. I'll grab it at the end. Just remind me. Okay. I'll tell you what the exact model number is. It's like the Spear LT, LE Spear LT MCX. Or something.
And then for for your duty and practice ammunition, shouldn't they be the same thing so that when somebody's actually, they know what the bullet's going to do when they shoot it through the air?
Yes.
Because if it's a shorter bullet, if you're using that for practice, and then it's going to have different flight characteristics, then...
You're 100% right. So that's one of the reasons when I'm talking about I want to go to an all-copper bullet, but I want it to be the same weight. So the weight of the bullet is going to be the primary. So I can go in a long spiel. Yeah. So I teaching snipers. I've taught snipers for years in the law enforcement and the military community. So ballistics, I'm really into ballistics, and I'll try to keep this without like going down this crazy rabbit hole. So when it comes to typical law enforcement, even atypical law enforcement engagement distances, if we're shooting our rifles inside of 680-ish yards, and it would depend on the exact rifle, and you'd have to have the actual chronograph information, ballistic coefficient of the bullet and whatnot. But a rough guesstimate that I give you right now is about 680-ish yards. The shape of the bullet isn't going to have any dramatic effect as long as they're roughly the same shape. The length isn't going to have any dramatic effect. What matters more than the length is going to be the weight of the bullet and the overall shape, whether it be a Spitzer type bullet, which is like your pointy type bullet, right? This is a Spitzer type bullet with a flat base, or you have what's called a boat tail bullet, right? Which is where the back of the bullet is kind of tapered, yeah, thank you. It's tapered, right, and that helps with some of the aerodynamics of the bullet as it's traveling through the air. So weight is actually the most important factor for a typical even atypical, for any law enforcement engagement. I don't know of a law enforcement engagement where they shot someone outside of, you know, that distance. So, but no, you're 100% on the right track, right? Don't we want our ammunition to track the same, right? At least within our expected engagement distances. And the answer is 100% yes. So we zero. Practice ammo is typically 55 grains. Now you can get some different types of practice ammo that are ballistically matched to specific types of duty ammunition, but then we're locked into one company, right? So say I want to go to Hornady TAP, which is a type of ammunition. I want to go to the Hornady TAP specific duty round. They may make a specific practice round that is ballistically matched to it, but now I'm locked into Hornady. I can't get practice ammo anywhere else, and oh, by the way, that practice ammo is 50% more expensive than any other practice ammo I can find. But if I get even if I get a Hornady TAP round or any sort of duty round, that is the same grain weight, So there's a 55 grain duty round, and practice ammunition is typically 55 grain. The cheap ones are, at least. Then I will have the same ballistics for our purposes. For law enforcement engagement distances, I'll have the exact same ballistics. So that is why I wanted to go with why the weight mattered to me, because I could get a bullet that is shorter, all copper bullet that's shorter, like a 47 grain bullet, and then I could shoot it out of a 1 in 9 twist rate. I could shoot it out of one of these guys, and I probably wouldn't have to change the barrel, but then I would have to change my practice ammunition, right? So it ends up, all these things kind of work. It's like a symbiotic relationship, right? Like, this piece needs to be the same as this piece in order to get a functional ballistic solution. And so, is that kind of long way of answering your question? Okay. Like I said, I can go down freaking rabbit holes, man. So,
Well, you answered the question by just saying that the distance further than that, then you're going to have the length of the bullet takes in more effect than.
yes, yeah, but not within our.
Yeah, in your scope of use.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, John Wick, man, they're walking through the subway and they're like shooting at each other underneath their coat jacket with these suppressed pistols, and no one notices because it's Hollywood, right? But a lot of people. So in 1934, federal government passed the National Firearms Act. It made suppressors not illegal, but it made them prohibitively expensive for the average American to own. There's a $200 flat rate fee associated with an application to buy an NFA item, suppressors being one. So every time you wanted to buy a suppressor, you had to pay the federal government $200 to leave you alone, basically, and let you do it. Probably the only good thing about inflation is $200 is not what it once was. So now, in recent years, the tax stamp has not become so prohibitively expensive, and people can afford to purchase these NFA items. So what that means is we've seen a dramatic uptick in suppressor usage in the civilian world. But outside of guys who are really into it, there's still these pretty niche things, right? A lot of people know what they know about firearms from Hollywood. And when Hollywood makes suppressors sound so quiet that you can have a gunfight in a crowded subway without anyone noticing, people tend to think, well, that must be what they're like, right? Obviously, it's not the case. An unsuppressed AR-15 with an 11.5-inch barrel, which is what we're getting with the MCX, will meter somewhere around 155 to 165 decibels. Decibels is a measurement of noise or volume, and when I say meter, it's just that's what it tested out at. It was between 155 and 165 decibels. So, for perspective, like a jackhammer is 130 decibels, right? So if we were to suppress a gun, right? Like say this gun has a suppressor on it. It reduces the volume, it reduces the level by about 20 to 30 decibels, depending on suppressor design, what suppressor you're getting, and ammunition, a bunch of other factors, but generally between 20 and 30 decibels. Now, these particular suppressors we're getting are designed, a big emphasis of the suppressor design is mitigating